is Amanda, or Miss A, as the class knows me by. So welcome. This is our final presentation, our final something for you all. We've had 9 weeks together, but of course we wish that it could have been a lot longer. I'm sure that you'd see us on Broadway if that were to be the case. So we like to call this our rough draft. You know, if we had a few more weeks together, we definitely would be on stage with real sets and real costumes and things. But we had one day, half of a class, to make sets and costumes and props. So we have lovely masks for you today. We have a few things otherwise that we will throw into the mix. We do have a little bit of music, so we have become as high-tech as we possibly can be. But this is really all about them and their performance and what they have been able to come up and be creative with our 9 weeks together. So I'm sure they all have been coming home and talking to you all. I'm sure we have family and friends and teachers and staff members and all types of people here to share with us today. We are so glad and warm and welcoming for you to be with us. So we just want to share a little bit with you about the process and how it starts before we jump into the presentation. So when we first came to the class, what do you guys remember is the very first thing that we did? When we walked into class the first day, what was the first thing we did, Layla?
We introduced ourselves and said our names.
That's true. We introduced ourselves and we said our names. What's another thing we did the first day of class?
We played the name game, and we also read the book of the wild things.
We played a name game and we read the book of Where the Wild Things Are. That's right. So we took the story of Where the Wild Things Are that maybe many of you have heard of, and we have turned it into this presentation that you will see in just a little while. So another thing that was mentioned was that we played a name game. So a lot of people do that in their homeroom classroom the first day of school, or in Girl Scout troops, or whatever you may do on the weekends, but we do it a little bit differently. When we do our name game, the very first way that we introduce it is that we start with, "Hi, my name is Miss A," and then you do an action to go with it. Something that involves your full body that everybody else who's in the class can also take part and do. So that we are doing one thing all together, as well as attaching it to your name so that you can remember it better. So for example, I started out the first day and I said, "Miss A." So that is how they all remember me and greet me today. They're like, "Hi, Miss A, it's so good to see you." So that is how I introduce myself, because that is the essence that I try to bring to this class, so that is how I personify myself. So that is one thing that we do in this class, and one way that we kind of bring learning and getting to know one another into a theatrical kind of idea. So what is another thing that we did along the way? We were doing it a little bit this morning, another kind of game. Colin, what's up? Bibbidi Bibbidi Bop. And do you remember some of the pieces of Bibbidi Bibbidi Bop and how it works? Can you share that a little bit?
Jello, so like the person next to them makes a ball, and then the person in the middle, they just wiggle around.
That's right. So if you were here earlier, we were warming up with that a little bit beforehand. So what it is this game that we start in a circle. And so there are a lot of calls that can be made, and I stand in the circle and I'm called the caller. So I can say a number of things, one of which is bibbidi bibbidi bop, to which if I say that to you, then your job is to respond to me and say bop before I get to the end of my phrase. If I point to you and say bop, your job is to say nothing. And if I turn to you and say Jello, just as Colin demonstrated, if you're Jello, you stand in the middle, but the two people who are on the sides of you, both left and right, have to form a bowl. So, not only is it a listening and paying attention to what I'm doing and what skill I have to perform, but also it cues your neighbors. And so that's another word that we learn and we use in theater, which is cue. So it's something that is before your turn to come on stage or to give your line, that gives you a hint to know that it's your turn next. So, just as Colin so wonderfully demonstrated, the people who are on either side of him are not the person who got called Jello, but they know that when they hear Jello, they have to perform as well. So that's one thing that we do as like a fun game to start our day, but then it also translates into a lot of what you will see here on stage. We do other things, including like prop work, and working on things called tableaus, which are frozen pictures, and that is actually how we got to this stage that you see now. So we took our story and we broke it down and we talked about it. We talked about the costumes and the characters and the people and all types of things and everything that goes into the story that you have to tell that story. And then we cast our show, right? We got up and we said, who wants to play this? Who wants to play Max? Who wants to be a wild thing? Who wants to be a tree? And everybody was cast in their different roles, and we brought in craft supplies, and everyone was given whatever they wanted to make whatever they wanted to portray these characters in their own unique way for you. So, we have presented and put together Where the Wild Things Are. It is our interpretation in 9 classes. as well as a lot of other skills built together. So we really, really hope that you enjoy it and stick around a little bit at the end, and we'll do a little bit more sharing afterwards. But with that being said, we will start from the top of the show. Thank you.